Let's bring our guests for the evening into the show now. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. First up, let's quickly go across to Justice Lodha himself. Sir, thanks so much for joining us on NDTV. First up, BCCI is saying that because you have asked the banks to not release funds, they cannot hold matches. But you have not asked for funds related to any of the current matches to be stopped in any way, have you?
Not at all. Look, our email to BCCI is confined to one thing, that is disbursement of large funds to the state associations. There is absolutely not a whisper that expenditure on ongoing matches or ongoing series or any other matches be not done or incurred. That's absolutely, that was, I think, BCCI as well as banks misconstrued our email, and as a result of that misconstruction, this confusion has arisen. There is absolutely not even whisper of freezing the BCCI's accounts.
All right, not even a whisper of freezing the BCCI's accounts in any ways, says Justice Lodha. Also, so the BCCI, another thing that they are saying is that players cannot be paid because of this. Now, player payments, etc., should also not be affected, according to you, in any way, according to the directive that you've sent the banks.
Not at all. Look, these are routine expenditure on cricketing matters like matches, games,
right,
and they are free to do that. They absolutely. Where is the prohibition? There is no constraint at all.
Right, no constraint whatsoever, says Justice Lodha. Let's take that to Atul Vasan now. Atul, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. First up, do you think the BCCI is trying to create a storm in a teacup here? Because as Justice Lodha himself is pointing out, none of the directives that the Lodha panel has sent to the BCCI and their banks can affect either the current New Zealand series or any future series for that matter.
Well, I think it's sad and troubling when on-the-field cricket is disturbed by off-field activities and shenanigans and power plays, you know. But we all know that this is the end game now. Whether right or wrong, I'm not going to delve into this or debate this or burden this debate further in what is right and what is wrong. But BCCI, to their, you know, if you can see why they're doing it, they're trying to retain the power they have always held over the court. But when the court says you've got to agree to it, there is no other way. Yeah, and they have to realize that they and smell the coffee, wake up. And, you know, by just creating this kind of an aura where you can say, okay, we are helpless now because of the court, the cricket is being suffering. This will send a message. Probably this is why they're doing it. But Justice Lodha just made it pretty clear that normal going-ons of the game, holding the cricket matches are not being affected. So I think they have to reread the judgment or interpret it in a different way, in a positive way.
Right, the cricket fan, I can assure you, will heave a huge sigh of relief after what Justice Lodha has told us. Let's take that to Charu now. Charu, the writing seems to be pretty much on the wall for the BCCI. But as far as the Indian board is concerned, does this strike you as strange that they're still not taking a stand as far as the current New Zealand series is concerned? When Anurag Thakur was asked about it, he said, I cannot tell you exactly what will happen as far as the future of the series is concerned, despite that clarification coming in from Justice Lodha, not just now, but during the day as well.
Well, the possible or the probable cancellation of the series was certainly a red herring, without question, because, I mean, not only has Justice Lodha clarified, but let's just rewind to the start of the problem. Of course, there was some mention about the board losing face. Well, I got news for the board because of what's been going on for the past 5, 7, 10 years. There's been so much loss of face, they don't have a face left almost. I mean, but there are several fabulous people in the board. Let me get that thought also out, lest we paint all of them with the same brush. But the continuing confrontationist attitude is not going to achieve anything. And I just fail to understand why several members of the board, not just one or two, maybe all of them, or the working committee or so-called working committee, could not have had several discussions with Justice Lodha or the rest of his team, or perhaps even other members of the Supreme Court, saying, will you please help us interpret these recommendations and make them practical, make them workable? There's just confrontation all the side about the fact that some of these recommendations are not practical or we cannot follow them. Well, for heaven's sake, have a chat with Justice Lodha and make them workable. So by now sitting back and saying, well, you've frozen our accounts, which of course is wrong, as we know, because it's not a question of freezing accounts, but only certain payments, which are very large payments. And, you know, one of the things that the recommendations have come up with is the fact that the board must not pay out to all these associations in such grand manners without some level of accountability. So once again, if you pay them out without the setting accountabilities, it's obviously contravening the recommendations. So, you know, this threat of cancelling the tour is nothing but trying to get more public opinion for the board, saying how can the Supreme Court or Justice Lodha lead us to a situation where cricket will not be played in the country, so down with the Lodha Commission or down with the Supreme Court, and we want our cricket. This is just, you know, populist, sort of, you know, potentially populist kind of threats. It's not going to happen. Don't tell me the associations who are hosting these matches don't have enough money to pay the water bill or whatever the other bills that are required to host a match. They're all fairly well off. But the extra funds that were being given is where the Justice Lodha Committee has said, please don't till we have all the recommendations in place.
Absolutely, and as Justice Lodha himself pointed out, and we mentioned in our package that we ran, there were only 2 large payments which the Lodha panel took objection to and asked the banks not to disburse those funds, and neither of those payments really have anything to do with the current New Zealand series or cricket in the future. It just has to do with an increment of 10 crore rupees and also the cancellation fee that the broadcaster paid back as far as the Champions League T20 is concerned. Let's take that to Justice Lodha himself. Why is the BCCI really doing this? He himself mentioned that they perhaps misconstrued the email that his panel sent out to the BCCI and its banks. Justice Lodha, the BCCI critics, they are calling this pressure tactics perhaps to play the national cricket card. What's your take on this latest twist in this entire saga?
I don't know what is the objective behind it, but I can tell you confidently that our email was confined to one issue, that is disbursement of additional funds to state associations, and BCCI has not been stopped from incurring day-to-day routine expenditure, which includes expenditure on matches, on cricket games, on ongoing series, etc. Now, what made them to interpret that way is something they can answer. I just can't answer that.
Right, let's take that to Atul now. Atul, the BCCI, they are asking if the Lodha panel really has the authority to interfere in financial matters and financial decisions of the board. What's your reaction to that? Because as far as I can remember, and every cricket fan who's been tracking this story, they can tell you that their mandate itself was the complete overhaul of the way cricket is run in the country.
Well, aren't we too far gone to question this now? We are too far down the road to actually come back to the original point whether BCCI is autonomous or not. That is a given now. I think that time is over now. And as Charu said, I think board had many parlays. They exhausted all their legal forays and legal options they had. But courts have not relented on certain very, very prickly issues where few board members who have actually spent their blood, sweat and tears getting to where they are in the board will suffer. They'll have to step aside with this 3-year cooling period, 9 years, 70-year age, you know, and so these are one board, one association. This will actually change the working of the board in a paradigm way, and this does not suit few people. Cricket will go on. There's nothing wrong with cricket. New people will come in. Board has got many more members, but these people who have actually controlled the game are feeling hard done by. So they are fighting tooth and nail, but they have to realize the writing is on the wall and they can't be doing it. They have to agree to what if the courts have not agreed to you, you have given all your reasoning, but the courts feels that this is the time to do exactly these things and you have to fall in line. You got no, and I must say that there are certain impeccable people in the board who I think would do great service, like Anurag Thakur is I think very dynamic person, Ajay Shirke and all. There are few people who you can't question, but you know it is collateral damage. You know, when things change, and it's painful when change comes. So certain people have to fall by as collateral damage as well, and that's sad.
All right, that's sad, says Atul Vasan. We'll have to let Atul go now. Atul, thanks so much for joining us on the show. But Justice Lodha and Charu Sharma still on with us. Justice Lodha, the one question that every cricket fan and every cricket journalist and reporter who's been tracking this story really is asking is what is going to happen on the 6th of October when the Supreme Court hears the BCCI's response to the status report that your panel submitted with the top court. If I can ask you, sir, what are you expecting from the 6th October hearing in the Supreme Court?
Look, wait, No, Supreme Court will decide whatever it thinks it is best after hearing BCCI. Let us not work in the realm of conjecture.
All right, let's not work in the realm of conjecture, says Justice Lodha. Let's wait and see what happens on the 6th as far as the Supreme Court hearing is concerned. Charu, you know, the Lodha panel has been asking for, you know, the routine payments they are saying can go ahead. They are saying that these, you know, 2 payments that need to be stopped are not routine and they are very large funds. So stop those payments. Now, is this a case perhaps of the BCCI trying to take a hard stance against the Lodha panel and the recommendations, and that stand backfiring on them?
Well, I don't know about backfiring, but for starters, it's fantastic that you have Justice Lodha on your panel today. So, you know, if you can hear me, fantastic. If not, please relay my regards, because, I mean, several very wise people have taken cognizance of what was going on with the cricket board. And, sorry, I'm not answering your question directly, but just to go back once again, the cricket board, you know, by its lack of transparency, because of the way it conducted its affairs, have brought this upon themselves. I mean, Justice Lodha and the rest of the justices who were with him, you know, they didn't interfere. They didn't say, excuse me, we want to look at what's going on in the world of cricket. It was brought to them saying that the lack of transparency is extreme. Some of the decisions that have been taken, all the rest of the nefarious stuff that's been going on is extreme. Can somebody please do something about it? And which is where all this has arisen from. I mean, this was not direct interference. This was only reacting to the requirements of what the board had led itself into. And about taking a stand, yeah, I just, you know, I cannot understand why there cannot be better communication between the board and several good people who run it and the Lodha Commission. They've come up with several points. If you do have a practical problem, I'm sure if Justice Lodha is listening, and I keep saying this, perhaps he can answer it today, I'm sure would have taken a humane, or should we say sensible stand on some of the matters that were brought to him, saying ABC is actually extremely impractical. We cannot have this go on. Can you please help us understand how we can implement this in a more satisfactory or in a manner which all parties can agree to. Right. I'm sure they would have said, yeah, well, it actually makes sense. For instance, let me say, the 3 selectors. I mean, India is a very large country. Yes. And if the board could make a really good case for saying, listen, we do need to cover a very large amount of territory in India. Yes, can we please have 5? Because it's a system that's worked very well for us, which is why we unearthed all this massive talent around the country. I have no doubt that Justice Lodha and the committee would have said, well, let's take a look at this, and maybe you have a case and maybe you can go back to 5. But this lack of communication, this confrontationist attitude is not helping the board at all.
Absolutely, and that is a sentiment that's been echoed by pretty much everyone across cricketing circles here in the country. And as far as clarification is concerned, Charu, I can tell you Justice Lodha himself went on record even today to say that if the BCCI needs any clarity on anything, they can just, you know, call us or ask us, and we will clarify everything for them. Justice Lodha, just 2 quick questions before we
clarify and perhaps even agree to a few things.
Absolutely, absolutely. So why is the BCCI not having that dialogue with the Justice Lodha panel? That is a question that Charu Sharma and many others are asking at this time. Justice Lodha, 2 quick questions before we wrap up. First up, that clarification on the Champions Trophy versus IPL thing. Now, the BCCI had also said that India might have to pull out of the 2017 Champions Trophy because of your recommendation that there has to be a 15-day window before and after the IPL. Does that still stand?
Our report doesn't impact the calendar or schedule of games which have already been settled much before. Now, Champions Trophy calendar was settled much before, and that is not at all impacted by our report regarding IPL.
All right, and what is your message, Justice Lodha, for the BCCI right now?
There is no message. I can only tell you one thing: game should go on. Game is bigger than all of us.